Good afternoon, professional writing students. Just a quick tutorial on chapters 12 and 13 of our course text about resume production and how to produce an effective cover letter or job application letter. So many of us are likely sort of familiar with this process. I'm betting some of us have already produced documents of this nature and applied for jobs. However, I mean, I've done this quite a bit in my life. I've had to prepare different resumes and cover letters um, often for different consulting jobs. So I've prepared multiple versions of these on a monthly basis, truthfully. But I still learned some things from this chapter that I thought were worth highlighting. And I wanted to show you an example too as you move into producing these documents for major assignment 4 this week. So basically, I thought some of the most valuable things that came from reading these chapters involved what employers actually do with these letters, your job application letter and the resume itself. So for many of us, writing a resume and cover letter can feel really sort of counterintuitive and awkward because we're programmed for modesty. But in fact, these documents are intended to sell a product, and you are in fact the product. So we really have to walk this line with sort of selling ourselves and at the same time making sure we're creating a realistic picture of who we are, what our strengths are, and not being overly modest, but at the same time making sure that again we're being truthful and have a clear sense of our own strengths as we try to sell ourselves for these jobs. So the resume really is a persuasive summary of your qualifications for a specific job. So that said, you know you're doing something wrong if you can sort of plug in different company information at the top of your cover letter and use your cover letter and resume for multiple jobs. You want to make sure you're very aware of your audience and your documents are tailored for that specific audience. So we begin, of course, as we have been with all of the documents we produced so far in the course, with audience awareness. Most of the time with resume and cover letter production, you're going to be encountering a gateway audience. Often with small to medium sized companies, this gateway audience is going to be an HR department or recruiter. But one of the most interesting things I thought that came from this chapter is that really these audiences glance at your document. Typically, your documents get about 5 seconds. So they're making a determination regarding whether you fit this job based on the visual appeal of your document and a very quick glance. So you want to make sure you're finding ways, organizational tricks, you're creating a really visually appealing document, and you're emphasizing information that's going to set you apart from the crowd. So again, visual appeal, clarity, and correctness are vital here. Some larger companies, as their chapter let us know, use scanning software. So the scanning software then in fact is the primary audience, and they're running it through these machines to look for keywords in the job application. So whatever was listed as part of the job description, those words need to actually appear in your resume and appear in your cover letter. So again, this is why it's so important to tailor your documents for the specific job and the specific audience. You want to plug in the words from the job description when possible. Okay, so I'm going to let you sort of review this document that I've created to highlight and emphasize some of the most important aspects of resume production regarding how long it should be, what information should be emphasized, um, the details you should include, the writing style you should use. Certainly, one of the things you want to make sure you're paying attention to is parallel structure and using verbs consistently, action words to emphasize what you've done in the past. So, for a past job, you likely want to use verbs in the past tense: recruited, designed, distributed, facilitated, created. For present jobs, you're likely using gerund forms of verbs, ing words. You can see a nice list of verbs to use in your resume on page 216, excuse me. And another nice thing about this chapter is that there are a wealth of examples provided in this chapter. One of the other things I want to highlight about resume production is that the layout and design is crucial. Again, you're getting like 5 seconds to catch your reader's eye. It has to be a visually appealing document, so you want to take your time experimenting with layouts, fonts, spacing, and that type of thing. You also want to carefully consider the kind of resume you're producing. If you don't have a lot of job skills, you likely want to, or a job experience anyway, you likely want to create a skills-based resume that highlights skills you may have learned through other experiences and other accomplishments. So you can highlight things like the longest paper you've created, unique coursework, clubs or publications you produced, play up maybe simultaneous employment and college experience. And then for those of us that have ample job experience, we want to create a chronological resume that walks our reader through the job experiences we've had and the skills we've cultivated through those experiences. So that's really significant to remember. You want to be very careful about whether you're going to create a chronological or skills-based resume, and that will depend on how much work experience you have. So take a look at 207 through really 220 of the course text. There's lots of examples of what resume should look like. There's a chronological resume and a skills-based resume. So depending on which route you decide to go, you can sort of look at how that should be structured. Other specific things to note, really important, is the difference between a resume and a cover letter. Resumes are, again, persuasive documents intended to summarize all of your qualifications quickly. So you're using short phrases and sentence fragments. The letter, instead, is not about summarizing all of your qualifications. It should not regurgitate or just reiterate what's in your resume. The letter instead expands on your best qualifications. So while the resume just sort of highlights any experiences you've had, the letter can explain controversial situations, such as a career change or gaps in your employment history, in a positive way. So you can spin sort of hiccups in your past that might look bad on paper. You can explain that information in the letter. The letter uses complete sentences and well-written paragraphs. So again, the resume uses short parallel phrases and sentence fragments. The letter itself is evidence of your written communication skills. Most job descriptions today ask you very explicitly for excellent written and verbal communication skills. This is your chance to demonstrate that in the letter. So this is often more important than your resume. So again, I'm going to let you review sort of basics from the text on cover letter production. Some important things to note here are that your job application letter should show knowledge of the company. It should be just a brief snippet or two, but you want to make sure that you're showing this prospective employer that you've done some research, you know the company, and you still want to work for them based on your knowledge. And it should also highlight what separates you from others. Very significant in the cover letter or job application letter are the first and last paragraphs. The first paragraph is really probably what what your gateway audience is going to glance at when you're trying to get your reader's attention. So it's important that you structure that paragraph very well. So you want to sort of call your reader's attention, and you're going to provide a sentence at the end of that paragraph that summarizes the skills that you have that are most relevant to that specific job, and sort of lays out what's going to happen in the body of the letter. And then your last paragraph should be no more than 4 typed lines, and should really just say very specifically when you can be contacted, but you don't want to make an assumption about your viability for the job. So it's sort of a delicate balance to walk here. So we'll look at a quick example of a pretty good resume and cover letter here. One thing to note here is that the objective in the resume and cover letter, this is something I want you guys to think pretty carefully about. Most experts these days are suggesting that the objective aspect of a resume and cover letter is dated, that it provides often redundant information or information that's not useful to employers and should be excluded. However, if you're a student that doesn't have a lot of job experience, it might sort of be necessary to emphasize those strengths that you think you have that make you a really good candidate for this job. So you can sort of think about that aspect of it. One thing this student does really well, they've got very little job experience, so they've created a skills-based resume and they've organized it very nicely. You can see that it's visually appealing, it's pretty precise and succinct, but there's some things we could tweak here to make this a stronger resume. So under skills, she's got this divided into organizational skills, research skills, and presentation skills, and she's done this really nice job creating parallel structure using gerund forms of the words, ing words, handling, being, understanding, organizing. But you can see when you read through some of these skills, she probably wants to go back and add some more specifics in revision to highlight why these skills set her apart from others. So the first thing she highlights under organizational skills is handling multiple schedules to create the best time managed work environment. This isn't too bad. It's fairly specific, and we can sort of elaborate on tasks that the students had in the past to help her cultivate this skill in her cover letter. So that's pretty good. Being punctual, is that worth highlighting here? Potentially, if that's something the job mentioned, but we might want to add some more specific details to our description. And again, the following two bullet points: understanding and being responsible for my tasks, organizing clearly defined tasks, make multiple steps quicker. That last bullet point is oddly phrased. So I think she wants to work on wording here and work on specifics. What tasks are we talking about? Why do they need to be clearly defined? It seems like she's sort of pointing out an obvious thing here. Organizing clearly defined tasks makes multiple steps quicker. This almost seems like it could be organizing and multitasking ability or something like that. And again, with research skills, I think we might help to provide some more details again in the cover letter. Developing skills in finding reliable sources, completing multiple research papers for history and English courses. This might be better if we added some specifics, instead of multiple 15 research papers for history and English courses. But I think we could develop these a bit more and get some more specifics and highlight why these skills make this particular student unique. Again, with a resume and cover letter, we want to look for wordiness. So here, participating in a 2-class period group presentation for my adolescent literature course. Maybe we could cut my and cut course, because we don't really need those things. Participating in a 2-class period group presentation for adolescent history. Now we've got the entry on one line, and it's a bit more succinct. So again, as part of a step in revision, we want to walk back through the resume, and we want to cut words that may not be necessary. Again, speaking in several class presentations of 10 or more minutes. This 10 or more minutes is nice because it's specific, but we might want to provide a number here. Again, we want to work on specificity. The student has had a single job as an agricultural aide, and so what we want to do is really work to highlight some of the things that the student learned in this job. So she says, learning extensive teamwork and communication. We could almost divide that into several bullet points. Working and communicating in a team, collaborating with diverse groups, facilitating group interaction. There's a lot of different ways the student could go here. Because as you'll see when we look at the cover letter in a few minutes, she really had quite a bit of work experience built into this single job. So you want to look for ways to sort of spin your job experience and highlight skills that set you apart from the crowd. The other question here is the student's educational history. What's happened in her education is the most recent thing. So this might actually belong above skills. And again, you can sort of tinker with organization, but keep in mind that the top and bottom of your document are the places of emphasis. So you want to really consider which items, which aspects of your history, educational, or employment are the strongest, and highlight those either at the top and or bottom of the document. In this case, our chapter tells us that you only want to include the GPA, your GPA for your coursework if it's above a 3.5. And actually, a lot of experts these days are saying omit the GPA entirely. So in this case, the student probably did not want to, in fact, include the GPA in her resume. Okay, let's take a quick look at the cover letter itself. You can see here it's pretty long, but again, this is your opportunity to sort of highlight and explain, highlight the skills that really set you apart from the crowd, that make you a really good candidate for this job, a good fit for this job, and explain any sort of gaps in your history or in your employment history or even your educational history that might sort of look bad on the resume. So a couple things to note here towards the top. Since she's actually got a lot of us, when we create these cover letters, won't have a specific person that we can contact. We won't know the name of the human resources manager, the recruiting manager, or the hiring manager, maybe in this case. So you might want to think about structuring your letter in the AMS simplified format that we worked on last week. or during week 2 of the course. But if you do in fact have the name of the individual, it should not only appear in the salutation line, but it should appear up here in the address. So here we would probably want to add something like attention, Miss Sherry Lee. And we'd want this obviously to be capitalized. And we again want our subject or reference line to be pretty short and succinct, so we probably just want the job title here. Historical Collection Specialist 1 position, and we want all about the words in our reference or subject line to be capitalized. So we're at an advantage because we know the name of the person we're supposed to be contacting. Let's take a look at this introductory paragraph because this is extremely important. Again, often you're getting like a 5-second glance from a gateway audience, and so what are they going to look at? Probably this introductory paragraph. So she says, I'm applying for your Historical Collection Specialist 1 position as posted on OKJobs. This is a really nice opening line. You typically want to include the job board where you found the job or whether it was in the newspaper. The employer is in fact interested in that. And you want to name very specifically the position you're applying for. If there's a reference number in the job posting, you want to include that here and probably in the reference line as well. So make sure the job title looks exactly like it does in the job posting. You could also say something, I write to express my interest in the Historical Collection Specialist 1 position as posted on OKJobs. Then she says, earning my bachelor's degree in history in December 2015, I will apply my knowledge while learning the basics of applied history at Oklahoma Historical Society. The wording here is pretty awkward. We probably want to make this more active. So the student here could say, I will earn my bachelor's degree in history in December 2015. Soften this a little bit, and I hope to apply my knowledge while learning the basics of applied history at the Oklahoma Historical Society. I don't like the wording here. I don't know what you guys think, but this makes it seem like it highlights the advantages the job could provide to the individual rather than highlighting the advantages the individual could bring, the value that she'll contribute to the job itself. So this makes it seem like the job's going to teach me the basics of applied history. That's not the kind of what we want to imply here. Instead, we want to apply we know the basics and we're going to make these valuable contributions. So maybe we cut this part. And I hope to apply my knowledge of applied history at Oklahoma Historical Society. So I already have knowledge and I hope to apply it. So again, we're just tweaking the language and revision here a little bit. This is why revision is such a crucial step in any professional communication. So I will earn my bachelor's degree in history in December 2015. Rereading here. And I hope to apply my knowledge of applied history at the Oklahoma Historical Society. My experiences in teamwork, communication, research, and presentation skills will make me an asset to OHS. Really nice line. Basically what we're doing here is announcing the main skills that we have that we think make us a good candidate for this job. But we're also making a promise. Our reader will expect to see information about teamwork, communication, research, and presentation skills in the body of this letter. So we better deliver on that promise because the rest of this letter should be showing, in fact, that we have these skills. So the student does a really nice job with this. She starts out by talking about teamwork. And she tells a story from her professional past. What you want to do with this first paragraph after the introduction is highlight the experiences you've had that are most applicable and relevant to the job for which you're applying. Then maybe the second paragraph can highlight skills that you have that you've built that maybe don't as directly apply to the specific job you're looking at, but that are still valuable skills. And then you maybe sign off. So she talks about teamwork, and she talks about communicating effectively. So both of those things come back through this experience she has as an agricultural aide. So she does a really nice job sort of announcing what's going to happen in the body of her letter and coming back to that information. And then she concludes this paragraph really nicely by saying, my accumulated skills in teamwork and communication would be an asset to the OHS team. So here is why I'm such a good candidate for this job. Then in the second paragraph, we get research skills, and she talks about her educational history and how she's developed these research skills. So, and she tells some nice stories about how she developed those specific skills. She sort of botches the end of this paragraph a little bit, and I'd recommend some revision work here. She says, I gained experience through my courses and my time as an agricultural aide. Most of the last decade of my life has been dedicated to taking care of my younger siblings to avoid paying a babysitter for childcare, resulting in my lack of more credible work experience. And she sort of ends the paragraph on this negative note. But instead, what she wants to do is highlight some of the things she probably learned through babysitting for a decade, and spin it to show how this babysitting experience, while it kept her out of the conventional job market, still makes her a good candidate, and still taught her about teamwork and communication, multitasking. There's lots of ways to highlight the things that she learned through babysitting that would make her a good job candidate. And then we get a final body paragraph about presentation skills. So the student does a nice job really announcing how she's going to organize this letter, and then coming back and telling stories, and providing evidence that she does in fact have these skills. This is how you want to set up a cover letter. So then let's look really quickly at the final paragraph before I end this little presentation here. She says, in December, I will graduate with my history degree from IU South Bend. Earning my education has provided me with unique experiences that I would like to utilize as a part of the OHS team. I would appreciate the opportunity to interview for the position of Historical Collections Specialist 1. I am available Monday through Thursday during business hours. Then she thanks them and generates goodwill that way. So for the most part, this is nicely done, but she can spin the language a little bit to highlight sort of why she's such a relevant person, I think. And this line is a little bit awkward. I would appreciate the opportunity to interview for the position of Historical Collections Specialist. Instead, she could say something. If you would like to further discuss my skills and this position, or she could say, or set up an interview. I'm available on Monday through Thursday during business hours. So she does a really nice job providing specific times when she could be contacted. I look forward to the chance of utilizing my organizational and team skills while gaining new experiences. Again, I don't think you typically want to highlight what the job's going to offer you. It's, again, this is you selling yourself, so you want to highlight what you're going to bring to the job. So she probably wants to work on wording a little bit here. One last thing to note, something really nice she does here, something we all want to try to shoot for. She sneaks in a reference announcing her knowledge about this particular job. With OHS having 35 museums in sites statewide, it would be incredible to work with this many collections and programs to learn the basics of applied history and utilize my skills. So she does a really nice job sneaking in this reference that lets the employer know that she has real knowledge about the company and its history. Again, I think she wants to tweak the language here. She doesn't want to talk about what she's going to learn on the job. Employers don't want to hear that. Instead, they want to hear about how she's going to apply the knowledge she does have. So she wants to tweak this a little bit, but she does a really nice job showing, hey, I've done my research. I know this institution. That's why I want to work for this organization. So those are some quick pointers on cover letter and resume production. As always, feel free to contact me via email with any questions or set up a time, and we can sit down and talk about any questions or confusion. Thanks, and have a great week.